What's up, y'all? It's your boy ShowtimeDr. I'm back. We're gonna do an updated guide for the Kristian dungeon. So real quick, I'd like to show you guys the characters I use before I show you the playthrough. So right here, Taiyo. Taiyo's really good DPS, just ridiculous overall, and then I've scaled up his 1 and his 3, so both of those are doing ridiculous damage, and he's geared for multi crit damage. I'd like to get his crit damage to 110%, but pretty hard to do without the actual crit damage rune set. Now, the reason I have a multi and a little bit of counters because he hits 50% harder on multis and counters. And then, that's his basic rune set there. Rue, do I really even need to explain Rue to anybody at this point? I think y'all understand just how ridiculously strong she is. So, give her some HP, she'll help keep your team up. Kristian, I still don't have Kristian where I want him, and hopefully once I'm done farming this in Taiyo's dungeons, I'll only auto those dungeons from now on, but work up his 1 to get that extra chance for crit strike chance, and then work up his 3 to hit hard, and, increase skill cooldowns, etc., remove buffs. I have him nowhere near where I want him. I actually want him to have about at least 90% to 110% crit damage. I don't have the runes for it right now, so it's just... Oh yeah, and then his rune, so it's attack defense. So Sid's throwing out those shields. Get Sid as high of health as you can, because it's 30% of his health on the shields. And he has a lot of multi. I like running with multi, because it's cool to be able to like cleanse a poison debuff and then heal in that same turn, and maybe cleanse another debuff. But well, that works out. And then Amon. I've geared my Amon up significantly since you guys last saw him on Cowley, so I'm scaling up his 2 versus his 1, because even though the 1, eventually it's going to be 65% chance to taunt for 2 turns. With his 2, it's AoE already, and then it's already 2-turn taunt, so the more you upgrade it, the higher it's going for everybody. So you really want him to be able to taunt as many people as possible. Engraving of Destruction, that'll come in handy later on in the video. I'll show you where you can use it. Basically, you put on somebody, and when someone uses their ultimate, they kill themselves most of the time. Now here, I give him a little bit of multi. I probably should get more counter, but whatever. A little bit of HP regen, over 20k health, right around 5k armor. 5k armor is a pretty good benchmark for where you want to be. 20k health as well. If you get some really good runes, I've seen people with like 22, 23,000 health. And then get his defense and HP as high as you can. And everyone's geared for, doing PvE content. So right now, we're going to switch over to the video. This is what I did on yesterday's stream. I'm going to speed it up a little bit, because there was a couple times I was answering questions. And, so wasn't actually playing as fast. So this first guy, Kristian Advent dungeon, all you really have to worry about with him, when he puts attack decrease debuff on you, he hits that person significantly harder. And he can put it on multiple people with his counter, because he counters at a fair bit. Usually what will happen here is it's a contest between your DPSs, because he'll target whoever your DPS is. And vice versa, so you're trying to get your tank... Excuse me, guys. That's my follow animation. You're trying to get your tank to keep his aggro as much as possible, but, the guy's going so much, you can't really keep his aggro all the time, so... Be prepared to remove that damage, or excuse me, that attack damage down debuff whenever you can. And then other than that, have some mitigation there, like a Sid shield or Able or whatever you got. And then just roll in. Engraving of Destruction, unfortunately, doesn't work on this guy. But that was his ulti right there. If Taiyo had had the attack down debuff, he probably would have died right there, or been saved by Amon's passive, which procs resolve for an ally once a battle. So, and then it's just a tank and spank really after that. You can't do like Looming Death or anything crazy on this guy. Get forward, talking. Oh crap, I skipped forward too much. Okay, so this phase 2 encounter, you are going to be fighting Cordelia on the left and Alfred on the right. So the issue is, like, let me pause it so you guys can see. Yes, there it is. Okay, so that buff on the left, you see there, Cordelia has 2 stacks and Alfred has 1 stack. Those are stacking self buffs that they have. Every time they do anything, including their self buffs, it gives them 1 stack. And a multi or a counter will also give them 1 stack. And they counter and multi at a fairly frequent rate. It seems like it's about 40 to 50%. You do not want that to get to 3. Because if it gets to 3, their next turn, they're going to do an AoE ult. It's going to stun at a high rate, unless you have Claude in here, because Claude's one of the Advent heroes that prevents stun. And it's going to do a good amount of damage, and so you're trying your best to keep that down, but the issue is you're also trying to kill these guys at the same time, because if you kill one or the other person just ults continuously until you kill them. Now, to counteract this, the first 5 turns, they're immune to things like Looming Death, etc. But after that, you can put on, you know, Mental Seal, Engraving of Destruction, Looming Death, etc. Any type of effect like that. They can be stunned. All debuffs pretty much work on them. So be very careful when you get to this point of... Oh, actually, that's fine. Okay. Let me think of the other mechanics. So the issue that you're going to deal with is sometimes they just counter and multi so much, especially if you're newer in this dungeon. You literally can't do anything to keep them from getting their stacks, or else you'll want to attack someone because they have 3 stacks, but you're taunted by the other one, or that person is stunned, or whatever's going on. So it's not always going to work out, is pretty much what I'm telling you here. So you are going to have to get some defensive cooldowns, like a Amon. Pretty much all of Amon's passives, a shield. You know, depending on who you're running here, Claude, etc., you're going to need to start burning damage immunities and defensive cooldowns. Now, Amon actually makes this a lot easier than it looks, because you can Engraving of Destruction them, but it's a cone effect, so you can only do it to 1. So if you have Amon, you can actually come in here, focus 1 down, and then just Engraving of Destruction the other one. And then they'll kill themselves. You have to eat one of their ults for sure, but that's probably how I'm going to actually start doing this dungeon. I was still running it the old way, because this was my first attempt since it came back. So. Since I'm running this video faster, that's why it keeps skipping. I'll turn it down to like... But pretty much that's all you need to worry about with this, guys. Now, you can run like double Claude and be basically immune to stun, because Claude really helps. And Claude, the cool thing about Claude is he multi-strikes naturally. So if he's countering or multiing, he's hitting both of these guys, which is reducing stacks, and hopefully they're not countering back. You know, so you see right there, Cordelia would have ulted, but I just went on her with Taiyo. Even if Taiyo hadn't killed her there, he would have hopefully stunned her. So when you get to Kristian, here's the thing about Kristian. First 2 turns, well, actually, this first turn, he self-buffs his crit chance and his counter strike chance. And then he's going to come, and I think he does his cone effect, which my tank's on the end there. So whoever you set next to your tank, be sure that they're tanky enough that they can eat that up to every 3 or 4 rounds, depending on what's going on in the fight. And then he's not going to ulti in this first phase, but he's still... His attacks pierce pretty much every shield. Although his second attack sometimes, when he does his double strike, that'll get absorbed by the shield a little bit. You'll see it go off here. I think it happened to Rue later on. So maybe he doesn't quite pierce everything. You see that there, how Rue's shield is. But she did take some HP damage as well, so at least a little bit of that pierced. When he does his 2, it has a chance to put up a debuff for 1 round. That basically makes it so that all attacks crit. Especially if you're new in this dungeon, try to get that off ASAP, no matter who it is. So follow animation. And then pretty much once you kill him this first time, he does get back up. So you are going to go into a second phase transition, and I will slow it down a bit actually once we get there, because that's probably the second most harrowing part of this dungeon, especially for newer players. Alright, so then the issue now is, you see how he summoned Damien. Damien is a fire elemental with some AoE damage. On Damien's second turn, actually, okay, let me rewind. When he resurrects and summons Damien, it's gonna change the turn order. So whatever it was, two new heroes are gonna go. They're gonna go twice on their second turns. Damien's gonna ult AoE and Kristian's gonna ult single target, and both of them do a good amount of damage. So ideally you want to have mitigation things up, like Claude's ult or whatever shields, damage immunities you can get up, damage reductions, etc. And if you have a newer tank, you are going to be wanting to defend with your tank as much as possible, because once your tank goes down and Kristian starts going nuts on your party, you're in for a bad time. So you'll see here, because I got a Sid shield. Luckily Sid's gonna go before all this, so his fat shield's gonna be up. So right now I'm just like surveying. I'm like, okay, what should I do? Because you're in a DPS race when you get through this. You need to kill Damien before they kill your team. Your tank, rather. Or basically your team, or your supports, depending on how it goes down. So you see that big fat shield? That was Damien's ult. But luckily... And then that's Kristian's ult. Kristian chose to take out Taiyo there, which is fine. Sometimes it's better that they attack your DPS than your tank, depending on what's going on. I'm turning it back up to normal speed right now. So right now, your DPS is in a race, like I said. They need to kill Taiyo, or they need to kill Damien, rather. So just go on him as hard as you can. There, because I'm talking him. Damien can be stunned. The only things that don't work on him are like Looming Death, Engraving of Destruction, Mental Seal, etc. But otherwise, he can be stunned, he can be debuffed, etc. I'm sure. I don't know if Charm and all that works on him. I'm pretty sure it does. Sleep. I know Sleep works on him. I've seen Sleep work on him. So in this phase, do not kill Kristian before you kill Damien, because if you kill Kristian, he gets back up and he's enraged, so he's hitting that much harder, and you don't want that. The turn cycle for Kristian's gonna go, he's gonna attack you 2 times, he's gonna self-buff with his crit strike chance increase and counter strike increase. When he crits, he also gives himself an attack buff. Actually, that might be the opposite. Well, either way, he's buffing himself. And 4th turn, he's gonna ult. And somewhere in those first 2 turns, he's gonna do his cone effect. So whoever's standing next to your tank, or if your DPS pulls, because their aggro is really fickle, guys. So if a multi goes off on your DPS and right before Kristian's ult, do not be surprised if Kristian decides to ulti whoever that the person that multied was. Being very animated in the chat right there. But pretty much you see how it's going here. So Amon, just a ridiculous tank, just a ridiculous character in this game. Quite honestly, I think he needs a hard counter. There is a chance. I could talk about that more later when I release another video, but apparently they killed Kristian at some point. Forward so we can get through this. Alright, so Damien's 2 actually is a pretty heavy-hitting stun. I believe on his kit it says it's about 320% damage. As you see there, we just killed Damien, so... Once you kill Damien, you're pretty much in the clear as long as your tank's alive. And at least one support's alive, because you can tank him and hopefully get your team up. And pretty much at that point, it's just, you know, whoop them. So, running a holy character in here is not going to be an issue. It's not like an absorption thing, like the way if you try to run a water character in Taiyo's dungeon. So just some updated mechanics for you guys. I didn't use Kristian here before. Now I'm using him. I'm finding him pretty good. I used Taiyo before. I used Ruin Sid before, and Amon's new. I used to take other people's tanks, but now that I've worked up my own tank, pretty gnarly. And there he goes. And hopefully, when he dies, you will get yourself fat loot, including a Kristian copy. In that case, I got the troll hero, but oh well. So anyways, guys, I hope that shows you a little bit more. Once again, if you're unclear on the mechanics, I made a previous video that goes really in depth on the mechanics and which bonus heroes, etc. So you can go check that one out. I'll put that in the description. Otherwise, guys, I'm ShowtimeDr on Twitch, ShowtimeDr. Check for a link in the show notes to my Discord. You can come in, share your experiences, ask questions, yada, yada, yada. And I will be making 2 more videos today, but I will catch you guys later on. Have a great day. Peace. Farm hard. Get strong.